87% of realtors get into the business and get out of the business in 2 years. That doesn't exist in our world.
We have massive visions around growing our businesses, and we are always looking to add talent to our world. We do everything in our power to ensure the people we surround ourselves with defy the odds, get into production, and build massive lives for themselves.
If you are a realtor looking to get into the business, we have a blueprint for success.
With locations all across Canada, reach out to us. Let's talk about partnership and opportunities. We are looking forward to it. Welcome back, Sales Beast listeners. We're here for another episode number 62 of our podcast with David Rubel joining us today. Welcome, David.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is great.
So excited to have you on board.
Being here. Yeah, I've been hearing about you, David, for months now. I would say 6 months. I don't know if you know that. You have a massive advocate in Sean Provencher. So he's been pouring into me like crazy. Big shout out to Sean. For anyone that doesn't know him, he runs FlipSpace. I think one of the best coaching programs for realtors in the world. Reach out to Sean or David if you want more information on that. Anyway, Sean's just been giving me all this attention for the last 6 months. I have no idea why. I think it's just that he's a lovely human. And every single time I was on a call, your name came up. David Rubel, David Rubel, David Rubel. You got to check this guy out. He's crushing it. Hasn't been doing it that long. And he is just an effing rock star. So we had to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Honestly, that's making me, that's warming my heart on a cold November day, almost December. Just to be pretty transparent, Sean is one of the best people I've ever met. I have only known him about a year, maybe a little longer. And he has really taken me under his wing and given me incredible mentorship, which is actually kind of new for me because I have been a mentor quite a few times, and I've never actually had a mentor. So having him pouring into me and cheering me on and helping has made an enormous impact.
Mm-hmm. I think we're both probably feel pretty grateful. We were at Sean's business planning for the last 2 days. He said something, I don't know if you've heard it, but it really stood out to me. He mentioned you, David, are amazing at networking, amazing at going out and meeting people. And he told us that that's what really fills your cup up and gives you energy. And he described himself as someone that hated doing that. It sounded like when he was in the business, he was more of a door knocker, a cold caller. What I thought was pretty cool was that he didn't seem to be forcing you to just replicate what he did. He respects what you do, and he still has the ability to help you and move you forward. Can you share how your conversations tend to go with him and how he's been able to help you?
Absolutely. And I'll give what I'm saying about Sean a little more weight, because before I was in real estate, I was a touring, recording, and teaching jazz saxophone player, and I've done about 15 years of coaching hundreds of very serious students or professionals and some amateur, like very amateur, just want to play for fun. And I have tried a lot of different things in terms of coaching. So Sean's methods and just the way he relates, and it always feels like he's in your corner. He is just a brilliant coach and person in general. So one of the things that I really like about him is exactly what you just said. And I don't want to speak too much because I'm not sure if he would agree with this, but I think one of the big things about FlipSpace is that it's an environment where it's not just one way to do something. And that's the beauty of it. So I'm pretty sure that he would agree that sort of the program mirrors his perspective, which is that there's not one way to do it. And one of the most beautiful things is, as somebody who's a new agent who asks a question in there, you're going to get answers from 5, 6, 7 different people that are all going to be quite different. They're all going to be very valid ways of doing things. And most of these people are pretty successful if you're answering questions like that. So it's wonderful to hear from a number of people, including Sean, about what they would do in a circumstance. I'm a sponge type learner, so I'll ask questions and be the squeaky wheel, probably to an obnoxious point. Though that's probably the most value I've gotten from any program ever, and I give it all the credit. So going back to your question a little bit, Sean is very open, and he has seen a whole bunch of different ways, and he also knows when to defer to somebody else too. So I've seen him in parts say, you know, this is probably what I would do with this. I've seen people do this. This person is an absolute expert. Why don't I introduce you to them? And I mean, I think that's just so beautiful. It's the perfect approach for most people, really. Help as much as you can. And when you're at your limit on your own knowledge, connect them with somebody who can take them further. I mean, that's just incredible.
100%. No, I don't know if you know, we already had Sean on, so he's had his moment to shine. So enough about that guy. The rest of the podcast is going to be about David. A lot of people are talking about you right now. What I've been hearing is that you're on pace to do $500,000 gross commission. This is your first year, right?
It is my first year. Someone's going to kill me for saying this. I don't think I'm going to make 500 with a couple road bumps that I had. I had a little bit of a health issue, and then I had something that let's call it $100,000 learning experience, because I started a team with a couple agents who are very nice. They're going to do very well. It was not a great fit, and to know, no blame on them. The experience wasted about 2 months for me. I shouldn't say wasted. I traded time generating deals for learning through failing at being a leader and managing people and hiring properly. So if it wasn't for that, I do think I'd probably be at 500. So I'm going to call it 500. And then I spent 100,000 on education. No, but
Realtors are always good at putting a spin on it.
Thank you.
I love it. I love that one.
Yeah. So I'm a little above 350 right now. I have a few things that by the end of the year, my guess would be about 425, 430, based on what I have in the pipeline.
Incredible first year.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, 500 it's a cool number at the end of the day. I mean, hopefully I'll have a long career, and this will be one year of it. So it's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how did you get into real estate in the first place? I want to kind of explore that a little bit. You went from 20-year performance background with the jazz saxophone, doing some coaching and teaching around that, and then into real estate about over a year ago now?
I just passed my anniversary a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so happy anniversary.
Thank you.
So tell us why real estate? Like what made you make that transition in your life?
Well, I was during the pandemic, I think it was a really big time of change for a lot of people, and a lot of time to reflect and just think about your life. And when things started opening back up again, I started thinking about my own life and what would be next. And this is almost going to sound egotistical. I don't mean it in this way, but I had pretty much done everything in jazz. Now, there would certainly be like way more higher levels I could do it at. Absolutely. Though it still would have been variations and levels of the same thing. And I was listening to this TED talk, and somebody was talking about this metaphor of, if your life was a day at an amusement park, would you just spend the whole time riding the same ride over and over again? And it really got me thinking a lot, because I had always been one of those, like, let's call them lifers. I didn't have a lot of other interests. I had some, though I've always been very all or nothing on anything I'm doing. So I really never thought I would do anything different. And this was a huge, I guess the word would be paradigm shift in my thinking. And so I started thinking about what I would want to do. And my dad is a criminal lawyer. That had always been sort of in the back of my mind. And looking at my age, I was thinking, okay, if I wanted to do that, I was 33 at the time. And I thought, okay, I need to spend a year studying for the LSAT. I'd spend a year applying. I'd spend 3 years in law school, a year articling. I'm going to be 40 by the time my career starts. So that would be a big sacrifice of time. And then I checked out Realtor school and I did the math and said, if I line up everything perfectly, I can do this in under 3 months and be working. And so I just attacked that 12 hours a day for about longer than that, 11 weeks. And there we go. Truthfully, my wife and I had bought a few properties and sold a few properties before that. I always liked it. Like I always liked it, even from a kid. Like when I was a kid, I enjoyed it quite a bit. And even after the first one, we had a really good realtor for the first one named Ryan Anthony. So he's a lovely person. He's a really good agent, and he's very trustworthy. And after we bought, I just kept looking on House Sigma and Realtor. And we had a couple experiences with a couple other agents as well, where I thought, oh my gosh, like I could do this at a higher level than this person, like today. And I was sort of right about that. So I haven't checked that guy's numbers. I'm just joking, but no, but it's a neat thing. And I think one of the things, they talk about necessity being the mother of invention. And I think that adjacent to that is the idea of, if you see something done really poorly and you think you can do it better, I mean, maybe there's a gap that needs to be filled. So I think one of my strongest attributes in life and as a realtor would be communication and making sure that everybody knows the roadmap. For me personally, that's something that I really need. I hate when I don't know what's coming next. So naturally, I want to provide that for other people.
Wow, tons of takeaways just from that small answer.
So we're done?
No. I love that analogy of the amusement park, and I've never really thought of things that way. And it's true, because even as a realtor, being in the real estate business, things tend to get mundane. And how can you implement uncertainty and change in your life to still keep it exciting and still keep you on the path of growth? So good for you, and kudos. I mean, 400,000 is an amazing year, amazing first year.
Thank you.
Now, one thing that we were chatting about before the episode started that I want to come back to is obviously coming from the music background, being a musician, and coming into real estate. You would think that those are two completely different industries, but you mentioned that there's some parallels and some skills that you acquired in that side of your career to now real estate. Can you talk about some of those parallels and how you're now giving back to other realtors in your brokerage?
Absolutely. So there's quite a few. I'll focus on one, but I'll start with a couple others. I think that one thing people really struggle with when they go into real estate, or probably anything that's entrepreneurial, is scheduling their own time. And going from being a musician, that was something that I had already, let's say, struggled heavily with, and then learned how to do properly. So my schedule, especially during the pandemic, I got really good at that. I had an 8-hour-a-day practice routine, and I was scheduled down to 15-second intervals of what I was practicing. So you're going 9 to 5 like that with scheduled, 15-minute break at this point. You're practicing this and this key at this point. It's very structured. So the first thing I thought of, and this is before I even joined Keller Williams, I started scheduling my own time and thinking, okay, what am I going to do every day to make this work? Little did I know that, one, there were better ways to do it, and two, I'll do another plug. I would get really great instruction about that from FlipSpace and Sean, and that's really great. How to run your business. And I mean, you two know this so well. Keller Williams is so good at teaching people how to run a business, not just real estate skills. So some of that I already have, and some of that has really, really helped me in life and business all over. So that's a big one. Scheduling your time, thinking about what are the important activities, and scripting, or I guess we're supposed to call it role play now. So role play, I think, is a really, really good one. And learning what to say to clients And I think of this, I think this is a really big perspective thing. I think if you look at it as manipulating clients, one, you're going to do that a little more, and two, you're probably not going to feel very good about it. So I really look at it, and I don't think this is just convincing myself, I think it's true. I look at it as removing roadblocks for them or removing fears for them. For me, that's really big because usually, and we're going to go a little deep here, the reason somebody doesn't want to do something is because they're afraid of pain or danger. And so if you can show them a way where there's no pain and danger and there's positive things for them, why wouldn't they do that? Maybe there are some exceptions, though by and large, I think that that's a really good method. I think the thing about scripting that is really beautiful is that it's all based in logic. That's really key for me. And actually, I'm not going to go too deep into that. I'm a really big believer in doing logical, rational things, despite going into a career as a jazz musician might lead you to believe. But really, if somebody explains something to me in a way that makes sense, then I'm usually on board. So something my wife really hates about me is that I'm very stubborn until somebody shows me that I'm wrong. And as soon as I'm wrong, I will jump to the other side, because for me, it's more important to have the best thing than the right thing. And so role play, scripting really works on a lot of people who feel the same way. I shouldn't even say works for. At the end of the day, I do find this easy because I shouldn't say easy. I think that if you come at it with the mentality of believing in what you're doing, that makes things quite a bit easier. In that, if I was selling something that I knew was not great, like, even something like Tupperware that I knew kind of, it didn't last long, it didn't work very well, that's a lot harder to justify and feel good about and energize yourself than something like real estate, which I know you both know that stat, has made more millionaires than anyone or than any other field. So I guess the long way around that is just saying, if you can show somebody a way where they can improve their life, why wouldn't they do it? Because I kind of answered one part of your question. What I'm doing is morning scripting sessions, and for my office through FlipSpace and another program. So it's 8:30 Monday to Friday for Keller Williams agents.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, you definitely gave a very deep answer, and I really appreciate everything that you came from, because you would think that other industries wouldn't necessarily have the same applicable models, same applicable tools, but like time blocking, you mentioned, dialogue and role playing, you mentioned, and those are all things that are super important to this business that a lot of people tend to not take seriously, especially just starting out. So it's great that you have done that, and clearly it's shown up in your world. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, as I was listening to you explaining why scripting and role playing is important, I thought back to the trust triangle. You guys know the trust triangle? It's like logic, empathy, and authenticity. And I think that's what that allows you to do, is to show up logically, explain things properly, to show your authentic self if you're prepared and you're ready to come forward with the information that's going to help your client the best way. And at the same time, it allows you to empathize with your clients on what their situation is. Like if they're going through a divorce, if they're somebody in their family has passed away, whatever situation that has caused them to make a real estate decision, scripting allows you to utilize this trust triangle and have people trust you because of it. It's not like most people look at scripting as like you're a salesperson, but I think it's the opposite. It allows you to build trust in a better way.
I agree. I think there's been a few terms that I really like. Anne Lesperance, who's on Team Jordan, has a really great one where she refers to herself as more of a real estate coach. And I have stolen that. And she knows it. Another one that I've heard that I really like too is, as opposed to salesperson, facilitator. Right? Really what you're doing is somebody wants something and you're showing them and working with them on how to get it.
I almost view scripting just as modeling. Like these scripts that you've learned from Sean have come, I'm sure he didn't create very many of them himself. None of us really have, but he's compiled them from a lot of the top real estate agents in the world who've done a ton of transactions. I believe the more transactions you do, given you're an ethical person, the greater your ability will be to serve your clients. So you can speak the words that have come out of the mouths of best realtors in the world. You're modeling their behavior, and in turn, you're going to serve your clients the highest level possible. You can be someone like David Rubel has been at this for a year, or myself, who has not been doing this for all that long, and deliver a level of service that far surpasses your average person that's been doing it for 5 years, or your average person that's been doing this for only 1 year.
That's very true. And it's funny that length of time doing this is, I think, something that a lot of, I shouldn't say young, but newer agents struggle with. And not to throw anyone under the bus, the worst realtor I ever had been doing it for 30 years. And of course, I would never say his name. I was super frustrated with him during our transaction, and knowing what I know now, I know I probably should have reported him to Rico for a bunch of things. He had a very successful career, and he's been doing it for 30 years. He did everything wrong. He made paperwork mistakes. He was lazy. He wouldn't call agents on our behalf. He let some people out of offers while they were still in their irrevocable period, and told us that was totally fine. Like, a number of mistakes. So I'll sometimes use that as an example. Because I'm 35, nobody I meet assumes I've just been doing this for a year. I'm pretty well spoken. I'm pretty confident, and I don't look 18. Like somebody like our friend Liam, he might get asked how long he's been doing this. At the end of the day, I think the type of person you are makes the biggest difference. For me, if I don't know something, I will talk to my broker of record or some mentor. Brad McRae was really, really helpful. Well, he still is, and I owe him a million lunches. The idea of, if you don't know something or you don't know how to serve somebody, asking and not just assuming, especially when you're considering what's the biggest transaction of somebody's life. I think that comes down to a personality more than experience necessarily.
Yeah, I think because a salesperson, regardless of whether or not they know something, they want to appear as though they know. And we have a saying in our office called verbal diarrhea. You speak at someone, and regardless of whether or not it's true, you give it to them. But when you come from a place of being an advisor and you want to truly provide your clients with the best advice so they can make the best decisions possible for themselves and their families, I think you need to be humble enough to tell them, I don't know. But what I do know is how I can go and seek that information out.
I could not agree more. I don't think anyone would, excuse me, have a problem with that, because for me personally, I'd really, really rather someone say, I don't know, I'm going to go find that out for you, especially with something like this. I mean, a pair of shoes, okay, whatever, it'll be fine. But you're dealing with somebody's life savings and something that's going to affect their family. It could have catastrophic consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find like when I'm dealing with a salesperson, when I hear them admit that they don't know something, it's one of the best ways they can build trust with me. Yeah, I get my guard up when I meet someone and they have the answer to everything and they can speak to any topic. I don't believe everyone knows everything. So when someone tries to come across that way, I immediately don't trust them.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you maybe speak to some of the other models you use? So one model I've heard you share with us is scripting.
Yeah.
The next one is following a calendar. In order to do, say, 425,000 gross commission or 500, I still have faith you're going to get to 500.
Thank you.
You must need a lot of clients to get you there. Where do they come from? What model will follow if they wanted to replicate your success?
or one really rich client. No, that's not what I have. That'd be great though. I'd love to sell a $20 million property. Honestly, my clients come from all over. I am a pretty good networker. Like you were saying, Sean was saying, I don't think I'm a networker in the traditional sense of what I think of as networker. I kind of think it's funny when you say that, I kind of have an image of somebody being a little inauthentic, like trying to get people to like them. And for me, at the end of the day, I want to have a good time. And I don't mean like a party necessarily, but something where I feel it was an enjoyable experience. I like people who I get along with. Wow, that's insightful. But I really do. I mean, I've had such great conversations with clients or leads in general about real estate that have turned things around. And at the end of the day, anything that you're doing, I believe, can be really fun, or it can be a really sour experience. So I'm always trying to think, how can I make this better for me and my clients? How can we have a better time doing this? What's fun? I crack a lot of jokes. I like making people laugh. I like laughing. And so I think that sort of meeting people, having a genuinely good time, being the kind of person that they feel they can trust, like Anna was talking about, I think it almost, I'm not going to say it does runs itself, because that's not true. I think that does a lot of the work though, because building that trust, I'm saying some stuff I haven't thought through. This is almost like therapy. I'm getting some realizations. If you trust somebody and you have a good time spending time with them, I feel like that's a really high percentage chance that if they want to buy real estate, then they're going to do it with you. And I've had a few people from my circle who are really far away call me and just say, can I just ask you some real estate questions? Like, I know you're not going to get anything of it, but I know I can trust you, and I just want your opinion on this. And I'll have a conversation with them for sure, because why not? And so in terms of models of networking, that is something that I'm not great at. I have systems. They're not super solid yet. I'm still trying to figure out how to systematize that perfectly. Actually, it's funny. One thing that I was thinking about yesterday was asking Sean to connect me with somebody I could talk to who is a masterful networker like that. I think that would be really useful for a system. I do go through my database. I do DTD2. I've gotten a little bit away from that as I've kind of switched to more to stronger organization and methods. The first 6 months, my database was a mess. I was not prioritizing that, the organizational part, and that's something I've been working on, and it's pretty much ready to go. So I need to actually dive into that. In terms of models, I do still subscribe to 3 hours of lead gen a day, at least most days. Well, let's say 5 days a week. And running out of steam here. I think what it really comes down to is just allocated time in some sort of method. And it doesn't even have to be great at first. It just needs to be some sort of method, and then you can make incremental improvements in it. So I think that's what I'm doing right now, is putting the time in. Now, how can I be more efficient and more effective with it? The other one sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to try and help you there a little bit. It sounds like you're also
Yes,
implementing the organizational model through the MREA, right? Like I saw you at the training event yesterday, and you've already hired your first admin. So do you want to maybe talk about that and how you're starting to grow your organization that way?
Absolutely. So I hired an admin really early because I heard Dylan Suter do it, and he's obviously beyond a rock star. And I had a very good friend who she had worked for a successful realtor in Hamilton, and she had helped me do branding and graphic design in my music career. So she was looking for work, and it was a great match. And it wasn't a sustainable match because real estate wasn't the type of career that she was looking for, though she really, really helped me get onto my feet that way. And that was amazing. So thank you, Sandy. And I think the biggest thing for me is I really despise doing paperwork. It's the kind of thing where if I have to do paperwork, I know I need to do it first, and I will delay more. And then I'll do it. And at that point, my lead gen time is probably over. So I know for me, the best way to get out of my own way is to have somebody who can take care of that for me and let me do the things that I want to do. So in terms of growing a team, I did that. I hired a couple agents, and it was not a great working together fit. We had some different methods and some different ideologies, and that's okay. And they're both going to be great agents. It's just, it wasn't the perfect fit. So at this point, I'm taking career visioning and learning exactly what to look for in the hiring process. So if you're in Toronto and you are an agent looking to join a team who wants to really, really work hard and build something that I think is going to be really special, you should reach out to me.
For sure. What's the best way that people can connect with you, David?
Probably through MySpace, or no, I'm kidding. Through Instagram. So my handle is @David Rubel Realtor, or my website, www.davidrubelrealtor.com.
Cool. We'll put it in the description box down below.
Thanks so much.
One thing you just said there, so I think it's so common. We run into a roadblock. For you, it sounds like you got into business with the wrong people. And then through being with KW, there's always a solution, a person you can speak to, a course you can take. Now, Anna can tell you this. When I first met Anna, I was very resistant to KW. I'm all in now. No, she's convinced me.
I've trained him well.
What you can do now, like what I found happen to me, the roadblock would happen, yes. Then you go take the course and make sure that roadblock doesn't happen, or the impact isn't as hard next time it does happen. Like if you really buy into KW or FlipSpace, whatever it is you're plugged into, you can expose yourself to people that have already had that roadblock and take the course before it even comes up in your life, and you just take off like a rocket ship.
Mm-hmm.
Like we saw Sandy and Andre speak yesterday. Like, just David, I encourage you to book a meeting with both of them. They've experienced so much shit over the last 7 years. They're the nicest guys in the world. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do to avoid the pain they've experienced.
That is a great idea, and I'm definitely going to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's you seem to be very bought in already, which is amazing. You're going to go a hell of a lot faster than I ever did.
You know, KW, it's really funny because I've never been the type of person to have what do you call it, like pride in an organization or something like that. I've never, like, when I went to U of T, and I was never one of those guys who was like, U of T is the best because I go there, at all. And frankly, I never thought that an organization would actually have culture like this. I thought company culture was sort of a myth. And what I've heard from friends is that it is, based on what their experience is. This is something different, just altogether. And it kind of just so happens that there's a real estate organization called Keller Williams that exists that mirrors my values so hugely of, hard work, generosity, treating people with respect. I'm not just going to go over the vision, but one of the big ones is a growth mindset. And that's something that in some aspects of my life, people have viewed as a negative thing, and it's really welcome here. So it does feel like home. I don't want to be too cheesy, but it's really weird to meet so many people who are so much like you. It's going to be so cheesy. Sorry, I'm going to say it. It's like, it's kind of the first time in my life that I've actually felt a sense of community.
That's deep, man. I agree with you though. Like, I don't know. Mike and I have been in KW for what? Like, when did you start with KW? Like 6 years ago?
5 and
5 years
3
ago?
months.
Yeah, same amount of time. And I think we all follow the same beliefs that you do, is like, this is much bigger than just a business. It's that community, that family, that friendship. And there's so many people that are willing to help you grow.
That, honestly, I think that has been the biggest shock for me because, and I guess most people feel this way, even though one of my real estate agents that I had worked with was fantastic, my general view of real estate agents before getting into the industry is that they were sharks or snakes. Take your pick. And doing interviews, I mean, I was pretty blown away. So the person I first met at KW was Kelly Magnetiers, and I came in and I didn't. She worked with me. I'm a high D, high C. So I asked her a million questions. I think we did 3 phone or Zoom interviews before I came into the office, and I wanted to make sure I was starting at the right place for me. And nothing against any other brokerage. Co-Elevation was the last interview I had, and I had felt like okay about a couple others. And then I came in there and I met Kelly and I met James Dobson and Dylan Mahaney as well, although he wasn't there for the whole meeting. And I was kind of blown away because here were these very type A people who are extremely successful. And yet at the same time, they were also extremely generous with their knowledge. And that has been a trend that has continued. And pretty much everybody I meet at KW who's been there a while, it's the same 2 things like that. Really high achievers, really generous with their time and knowledge, and just really good people.
Well, it's I think we're coming to the leg of our episode, but before we let you go, David, if you've listened before, you might know this question and might be prepared already, but who do you know that we should also have on this podcast?
Ooh, that's a really good one. Do they have to be in sales?
Nope, not necessarily. It's a real estate podcast, but we've had other people that align with some of our values on here.
So I have somebody who you should definitely talk to, and her name is Amanda Buckingham. She's a friend of mine. She's also been a client, and she runs a company that's called Open Concept. And what they do is, she's a therapist and she teaches a couple things called DBT and RODBT, and it's basically life skills. So I actually brought her in for a couple things to do with scripting, and we were talking about fears in scripting, fears in lead gen, and exposure therapy. So I was chatting with her about it, and she offered to come in. She's a genius, and she has these group classes. So for people who are experiencing things like issues with perfectionism, things like that, how to kind of get out of your own way, if you have trouble relating to other people, things like that. So I think she would be amazing for this. For anybody who's in sales and you have certain difficulties that you're overcoming, that could be a game changer.
That's a really good recommendation. We'll have to get her contact info from you afterwards.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
So
any final thoughts, comments, concerns for our listeners? Anything you wanted to shout out?
I mean, the only thing I would say is that if you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, give me a call. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I wouldn't be opposed to that. The biggest thing that I would say for anybody right now, everybody is feeling a little burnt out. So make sure that you're doing things to heal yourself and give yourself longevity.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on today. It's been great chatting with you.
Thanks for having me.
Every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day